Hello and a very warm welcome from Johnny and I to the Race of Champions Nations Cup. The drivers are being paraded as we speak at the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park in East London. And Johnny, it's something that the drivers really look forward to, isn't it?
And the riders, you know, they all love being able to sort of race together. And the atmosphere, I have to say, is brilliant because everybody is there thoroughly to enjoy it, for one thing. As soon as that visor goes down, it all changes once again and competition comes to the guys. And it's just a brilliant event.
Guys and girls.
Indeed, yes.
Thank you,
right,
because Susie is racing
Susie's going to have a
tonight,
go as well, so...
Which is good stuff. It's important that you say riders as well, because it is such a cross-section of motorsport talent out there on show. And is this why they love it so much? Because they really are pitting their wits against the very best in the world in exactly the same machinery.
Yeah, because, you know, you've got F1 drivers against NASCAR drivers, against MotoGP drivers, rally drivers, DTM drivers, and the list goes on. And I think what makes it brilliant is all that ability for all these guys to mix it up and at the end of the weekend to see actually who is the best.
Well, tonight it's about the nations. They're pairing up in little mini nation teams. Why will that be exciting for you?
Again, the racing is exactly the same. The guys will still go head-to-head against each other. And the competition is obviously just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. The knockout rounds, obviously, are really, really important for the guys to get through. And then the pressure and the tension starts to really sort of envelop the whole stadium. Now,
we know that you're a bit gutted not to have been invited this year. They didn't have an over-60s category. But if they had... if they had, yes. Who would you choose to be your partner?
I think I'd probably get Nicky Lauda.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he'd be able to do the old mind games with him as well.
Oh, poor old Damon.
I
thought you two were inseparable.
Yes, well, exactly, but I need someone to get a bit of edge.
Anyway, you're supposed to have someone from the same country as you, Johnny. For goodness sake. Right, let's have a look at how the nations line up. So, Sebastian Vettel and Nico Hülkenberg pair up to represent Germany. Bit of artistic licence here because we've got 9-time Le Mans winner Thomas Christensen. He teams up with the star of World Rallycross, Petter Solberg, to represent the Nordic teams. And then from Australia, it's Daniel Ricciardo and 5-time MotoGP World Champion Mick Doohan. Then representing Brazil, we've got Felipe Massa and last season's Formula E champion Nelson Piquet Jr. 13-time Grand Prix winner David Coulthard, partners Susie Wolff for Scotland. And then there's the Americas. It's the Indy 500 winner Ryan Hunter-Reay and the double World Touring Car champion Jose Maria Lopez. Next up, it's the All-Stars. 6-time Olympic gold medalist Sir Chris Hoy, who is no slouch. He teams up with Romain Grosjean. And then the first of the England teams is Jason Plato, the double British Touring Car champion, and Andy Priaulx, the 3-time World Touring Car champ. Jenson Button pairs up with his best mate's brother, Alice Buncombe, who also happens to be Blancpain Endurance Series champion. And finally, it's GP2 champion Jolyon Palmer and Pascal Wehrlein, the youngest ever champion in DTM. So, it's a unique competition. Let's see how it works.
This year's Race of Champions is hosted at the former Olympic Stadium in London and is inspired by an Olympic cycling-style pursuit race on an all-new track. The drivers will race in identical cars. Each driver will start halfway round the track from their rival. They will line up next to each other but facing in opposite directions. At the green light, they'll speed off in a bid to hunt each other down. There'll be graphics to indicate who's in front with split times on each lap. Each driver will need to complete 2 full laps, racing towards the big finish, where there can only be one winner, often decided by just fractions of a second.
So in each race, both drivers will drive the same car, and here are the ones on offer. Johnny, pick us out 3 of your favourites.
Radical, absolutely. British-made little sports car, great little thing.
0 to 100 in 3.1 seconds.
I think that's good enough.
That's rapid.
That one, Euro NASCAR, great big heavy lump of American sort of horsepower, but brilliant to drive, very, very soft. Rolls all over the place, but the one that rolls all over the place the most is the buggy, the ROC car, which, again, 0 to 60 in about 2.9, so it's a mean old piece of kit.
And you see, these drivers are going to have to be multi-skilled because they're driving lots of different cars. That's going to be hard, isn't it?
They'll be okay. You'll be amazed how quickly they're able to adapt to the different cars, and that's part of the challenge, and that's how we get to see the best of the best.
Now, let's talk about the race format, because it is a knockout. There is a preliminary round where the first 2 are decided as they go into the quarters, And then it's a straight knockout. Best of 3 races. So if it's 1-1, then they have a decider and they nominate the strongest man or woman to represent them. How do you see this one going? Look at England 2 in there. Possibly England 1. So you could have an all-England semi.
I think there's a good chance at the moment. The sort of the mixture of the drivers they've got have got a good chance of getting into those semi-final. One thing you can't do, you can't touch the side of the track or the barriers. You touch the barriers, there's normally a penalty that is put on top of your time at the end of the race.
OK, well, I think we can hear from Ted Kravitz now, who's over at the Olympic Park. Ted, can you hear us?
Hi, Nats. Yeah, certainly can hear you. And I would like to say that the atmosphere is building. And it is building because we've had some of the preliminaries. The drivers have just vacated the photo, and you can just see the last of the drivers just making their way over the fence there. I can see down to Jose Maria Lopez. I can see Andy Priaulx making his way down into the changing rooms, and we're ready for the first race. And it's interesting you say on that graphic what we're going to see, because really the first race, I believe, is between Romain Grosjean and Pascal Wehrlein, and then Chris Hoy and Jolyon Palmer. And so what I'm interested in is the 2 F1 lineups there. Chris Hoy against Jolyon Palmer. We'll get to see what happens. Jolyon Palmer is, of course, a long-time racing driver. He's grown up at his father's racing circuits in Brands Hatch and places like that, Cadwell Park and Alton Park as well. But then we've got Sir Chris Hoy, who's second career, if you like, after, of course, winning so many gold medals for Team GB in his chosen profession. But, of course, then that will be interesting to go together. But Romain Grosjean against Pascal Wehrlein will be an interesting one. And then we've got Team England 1 against Team Brazil, which is Andy Priaulx against Nelson Piquet Jr. and Jason Plato against Felipe Massa. But, Johnny, I'm interested in your view as to how these head-to-heads work when you've got a stadium layout like this, because of course with Formula One it's all about going round a circuit and not getting sideways and not spinning out and not getting all leery on the steering wheel. Of course, in rallying and in touring cars you're allowed a bit of slip now and again, aren't you? And it is going to be a bit of slip around here. See how tight it is. So Johnny, do you think this gives the advantage to the rally drivers and the touring car drivers over the F1 guys? What do you think?
Well, you'd always expect that, but you'll be quite surprised that it's all about not making a mistake. And if you don't make a mistake, you're going to benefit absolutely brilliantly from that. The difference is when the ROC started in Gran Canaria, it was actually sort of on a dirt rally stage. It's completely different now. Of course, it's tarmac.
And what about the bragging rights that you earn from winning something like this?
It's brilliant because, you know, it's something at the end of the year that everybody has thoroughly enjoyed, and that competition between all is pretty fierce the whole way through the stages.
And I'm sure a bit of patriotism at stake as well?
Yeah, of course there is. You know, there's always, you know, you're trying to do the best you can, one for yourself, but of course today it's all about teamwork as well. So you'll be egging each other on to do the best you possibly can.
Ultimately, everyone is a racer at heart, so they just want to race as much as possible. I mean, obviously, we're still in the F1 season, so is it any sort of distraction?
That's what's good, isn't it? That's what's good about it, yeah, because we've got one race to go, but the competition itself is next weekend, so they haven't got to worry about anything at the moment. It's just a bit of fun at the same time, but there's a little bit of an edge because obviously you want to come out of it as number one as well. You've got the bragging rights when you get to Abu Dhabi, and if it's an F1 driver. Impressive
venue. I mean, when you think about the sporting greatness that has gone there before, I mean, there's a real sense of awe about the place, isn't there?
Yeah, it looks fantastic, doesn't it? And again, like Ted says, the atmosphere is building, and that's something that you expect from a place that has really put a lot of effort to get a cracking little track under all those lights as well. Brilliant.
OK, well, I think it's time now to head over to our commentary team of Jenny Gow and Martin Haven.
Well, here is the coin toss to choose which lane you go into. The winner chooses, and the feeling is that possibly the interior lane might be quicker. Andy Priaulx tossing for Team England 1, Team Touring Cars, and the Brazilians winning the toss. Nelson Piquet choosing to play uphill into the wind in the first half. So it'll be on my starting order. I'm going to turn a piece of paper over now because this is actual telly. Andy Priaulx versus Nelson Piquet Jr. And for Felipe Massa versus Jason Plato.
So we can see Team Brazil is coming out onto the track. You can tell that by the small flag on the right-hand side of that car. So Team Brazil being represented by Nelson Piquet Jr. in that Euro NASCAR.
So his is the black and red one when we lose track of which lane they started in, and that will happen the moment they leave the line. So he is on the interior lane. So I'm going to note that down on my piece of paper. Piquet
you can just about see the drying line now, as well as Andy Priaulx makes his way out. Obviously a far shorter trip to his start line. In the white car when you're looking out for it. So Andy Priaulx in Team England 1, that's Team Touring Cars.
So the first of our Nations Cup races. Don't forget, this is to get through into the quarters. Best of 3, so it may be decided in 2 winning runs by one team or the other. So they'll go all the way round. It's a Mobius strip, so you'll go outside, inside, inside, outside. Away we go for the first of our races. Andy Priaulx, a confident start, and the team have measured the start line is exactly equidistant from the first corner in each direction. And of course, since you use the entire track, outside and inside lanes, the teams are on the same length track.
Nelson Piquet Jr. getting a little bit of a backslide on there as he goes around in the black and red car.
So when they get to the line this time, it'll be the first full, complete lap, and that's where we'll get an idea of who's in front and who's behind. Priaulx with the power on at the line, so maybe out of the last corner, the external lane could be beneficial. Priaulx 0.769 up. I'm calling that 0.77 because I'm lazy. Nelson Piquet was warming the tyres and brakes assiduously when we saw him on the track, and Priaulx will have been doing that as soon as he left the driver changing area.
The checkered flag is being prepared as they come round these final corners.
All about control now for Priaulx. He had the advantage first time. He's got the drop on Piquet. It's 1-0 to Team England 1. So it is now sudden death for Felipe Massa, the Brazilian who was world champion for a quarter of a lap, wasn't he? Will now have to go up against Jason Plato. So Priaulx with lots of wheel spin at the start, and the margin of victory very small indeed. 1 minute 7.5 to 1 minute 8.0, so half a second of wheel spin can cost you the race. Jenny, it's going to be very close indeed, and the temperature's dropping all the time.
I have to say, as Nelson Piquet Jr. came around the final bend, you just saw him clipping the side of that curb. That was costly for him, although I'm not sure he could have made that back.
Well, now then, let's talk about clipping the walls and clipping the curbs, because in previous years, as you know, we have had a yellow card and a penalty system for hitting barriers. If you clip a barrier once, you'll be shown a yellow card. It'll come up on our on-screen graphics. If you do it a second time, it's a 5-second penalty, and for each subsequent touch or each subsequent time a wheel goes fully inside a curb, it's another 5 seconds, and you will not make those penalties up on the track. So, in the Mercedes SLSs, Felipe Massa on the outside, and Jason Plato, is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Jason Plato on the internal of the laps, and it is Felipe Massa external, both of them in black cars, so you can't tell the difference there. Look out for the flags, and they're off!
Okay, so Plato with the white stripes and Massa with the orange stripes, but yes, sexy matte black beasts in this GTS version of the AMG SLS. 510 brake horsepower, 650 Newton meters of torque, lots of speed. This is the fastest car in the event this weekend. Top speed over 300 kilometers an hour. Clearly, they're unlikely to achieve that here, and if they do, it'll be racking up penalties and damage bills, and this is going to be close. But Plato's in front at the end of lap 1, and that is very good news. This could be a 2-0 whitewash to England.
There's only 4 tenths in it, though, not a lot at all.
Big slidey
in this
moment.
tight and windy circuit around inside this Olympic Stadium.
Halfway round again, and the drivers can look at the big screen if they have a moment, but they say they are very aware of where their rival is, because you pass each other 4 times in a race, or 3 times in a race and once at the finish. Here we come, Piquet's got the hoof down, the Massa's rather has got the hoof down, but It is Plato that wins it, 106.95, and Massa loses by 9/10.
Disappointment then for Team Brazil, who get knocked out at this early stage of the Nations Cup. As you can see them coming across the line, that is what half a second looks like.
Yeah. So, a England 2, Brazil 0 scoreline there.
This is not football, Martin, you can tell that much.
Certainly isn't. A, they're not earning as much, and B, they won. So Felipe Massa, well, PK certainly had the advantage here, having NASCAR experience, but of course, he's never raced a NASCAR or driven a NASCAR, anything as small as this stadium run. But whoever was alongside Jason Plato there has been in a winning run.
So, the early scalps then to England, 2-0 going in to the next race. It's the All-Stars versus the Young. It's Chris Hoy versus Pascal Wehrlein. Join us after the break for that.
This season, just 21 years old.
Do you remember being 21?
I couldn't possibly comment. Whatever it was, whenever how long ago it was, I was nowhere near as composed as this 21-year-old. I'm still nowhere near as composed as this 21-year-old.
So the Ariel Atom Cup. Oh no, they are in the KTM Crossbow, my apologies, and they are ready to go. 5 lights on.
So now, what actually they should be doing is following a guy around on a very slow petrol-powered motorcycle and then sprinting past each other at the last moment, like the Kirin, in which Sir Chris Hoy is a multiple Olympic champion. Here's Pascal Wehrlein then, Mercedes test driver, so he in fact will be demoing the Mercedes Formula 1 car here as well. And Chris Hoy with lots of oversteer. The KTM is a generic understeerer at these speeds, but you can push the tail out in the dry, in the wet. Oh, and there's a penalty for Chris Hoy, or a yellow card rather. You heard him clatter the wall.
So 1 penalty, no problem. Yeah. 2 yellow cards, and you pick up a 5 seconds time penalty.
And you can see there are a couple of curbs which it is possible to cut, but not advisable. So Wehrlein was in front on the first lap by 3.3 seconds. And he was already in Formula 3 before Chris Hoy had started racing Radicals in the Radical Cup. And Pascal Wehrlein takes victory at the line in the first of our All-Stars versus Young Stars races.
And I have to say the Young Stars looking pretty impressive there, but bear in mind, next out for the All-Stars is Romain Grosjean in the Mercedes. We don't often say that. He might be powered by a Mercedes engine in Formula 1, but he will be coming out next. And he has won this race before, of course, not in the Cup, but in the Champion of Champions.
We are also going to be having a GP2 champion shootout, because Romain Grosjean, former GP2 champion, versus Jolyon Palmer, the reigning GP2 champion. So Sir Chris Hoy unexpectedly fired up into the upper echelons here this weekend to compete against the big boys. And Pascal Wehrlein, the DTM champion, strikes first for Team Young Stars. And there's another young star, young Master Massa. He's already got his grid lined up.
He is a phenomenally quick driver.
Burned the tyres off the Red Bull, hasn't he? Have you seen that? There's nothing left on them at all.
So we can tell you Romain Grosjean will be in the yellow striped or orange striped car, and in the white striped car it will be Jolyon Palmer on the internal of the lanes.
It is Grosjean then with the yellow stripe, so he's in Bumblebee. Jolyon Palmer in the black and white one.
I thought you were going to go Hornet or something.
No.
Skunk.
No, oh well, skunk, yes, but that's not a transformer.
Badger?
It's not a transformer, is it? Badger yourself. Here we go then. So this is must win for Jolyon Palmer. Did he jump the start? It was a good getaway. Penalty if you do jump the starts. What about Romain Grosjean then? Still in a Lotus driver's suit. One more weekend as a Lotus driver. And then he will be heading to the team in Banbury, the newest team in Banbury, Haas F1. So Grosjean with the black and yellow. You're looking at Joe Palmer, son of Dr. Jonathan Palmer. Palmer himself, of course, was a Grand Prix driver in the 1980s, won the Jim Clark Cup in his normally aspirated Tyrrell.
just see at the split then that it is Romain Grosjean who takes the lead by 6/10.
Well, 6/10 is close. You know, we talk about that being a large margin in motor racing, but this is very difficult, controlling the slides. If you get a bit of a tank slapper going, that's 6/10.
And Palmer has absolutely messed up that last turn coming in, took far too much curb, ran wide, had to almost stop the car to get it going again. I think he's handed this to Grosjean.
Romain Grosjean with a 6/10 advantage. He's already coming out to the final corner to the line. It's a big win for Romain Grosjean. And as you said, Joe Palmer a long way behind and comes across the line in second place, but some 6 seconds back nearly. Grosjean's left the stadium almost before Jolyon Palmer gets to the line.
Jolyon Palmer, of course, taking the seat of Romain Grosjean when he leaves, and Jolyon Palmer becomes the new Lotus driver. So another Brit going into Formula One.
Fantastic news. Fantastic news for Jolyon and for his dad, Jonathan, who, of course, his day job is not only running the Bedford Autodrome, but also running the MSV group of circuits, Alton Park, Brands Hatch, Snetterton.
Look at the focus there on Romain Grosjean's eyes. Such a complete driver in the last couple of years.
Well, we have a report that Jolyon Palmer picked up a puncture. Now, that may have been on the curb. It may not have been on the curb. That might have been the reason why he went on the curb. The deal is, if you have a mechanical problem with the car or a puncture, then I think at this stage it may be tough luck.
I've got a funny feeling.
When we get into the individual races, we will rerun a heat where a car or a driver has a problem like that. But I think from previous years' experience, it is taken as that's just unfortunate, let's rock on with the show.
I've got a feeling that puncture would have happened as he came around that final turn because he took the curb far too tight, and there's a lot of new asphalt there, so I think that would have been enough to give him a puncture, but we will find out. We've got pit lane reporters down there and they will get back to us and let us know, I am sure, exactly what happened.
Indeed. Neil Cole and Azifani are downstairs, but Grosjean is getting into another car. And he is getting into the Radical SR3s, which means we are going for another heat. Now, that's Jolyon Palmer on the left in his Lotus overalls. So...
we definitely know Romain Grosjean with the number 8 on his F1 helmet will be taking to this in the decider, in the Radical. And he should be up against Pascal Wehrlein. So All-Star versus Young Star winner, Pascal Wehrlein winning it in the KTM Crossbow, should go into Radical, and he will face off against Romain Grosjean for the All-Stars team.
Toto Wolff down there in the black jacket alongside Jenson Button in the beanie and the car coat. Felipe Massa. Everybody watching because they practiced yesterday in appallingly wet conditions. They've had a little bit more practice today, but they're all watching really intently what everybody else does. And this is something you almost never get a chance to do as a racing driver. Watch the other guys that you're competing against while they're on track, because normally you're on track at the same time. And drivers often say, you know, if they come and sit in a commentary booth, they see so much that they would never normally see.
Jenson Button's done more of that this year than he would have wanted to.
Yes, someone rather unkindly tweeted that 2 laps around here would be as much as Jenson's had seat time in the McLaren Honda for most of the season.
It's not been a good year for them, but he's having fun here this weekend, and it's an event that he hasn't done since 2009. He was really keen to come back, especially in front of a home crowd.
Yep, he came to Beijing in 2009, hot from victory in Brazil. So Romain Grosjean, GP2 and GP2 Asia champion. And he is our 2012 champion of champions. That was a very busy 12 months for him, because of course in that period he also made his Renault debut in Formula One and got dropped as well. And it's a very unusual driver who skids off on re-entry and then manages to find a more permanent seat in Formula One. Normally, if you're out, you never come back in.
So this is Pascal Wehrlein, young German, who is looking for a seat in Formula One at the moment. He's a test driver for Mercedes. What do we know about Pascal Wehrlein? Well, he's German.
And Mauritian.
Yep, he is also the reigning DTM champion. And he has his eyes set on you. The 2014 runner-up as well last year out in Barbados. Slightly warmer than London. How did I get this gig and not Barbados?
just pure good luck.
I know.
And for a youngster to come straight in against a whole host of drivers of the calibre that he was facing, and just to come in with no expectations and no nerves and rock in and almost win the thing outright, remarkable. David Coulthard had to really pull out something special to defeat Pascal Verlaine. So now he's firmly on the map. 20 years old, he claimed the DTM championship. He's now 21. So, the first time we're seeing the Radical SR3, these motorcycle engines, lightweight sports cars. The only reason we're able to use these is we no longer have the crossover bridge. I was talking to the Radical boys. I said, would you have managed the crossover bridge? We were standing by a little protector for TV cables, and they said, no, we couldn't get over those.
What happened in that?
I got a puncture, so not ideal. I took a curb reasonably heavily, then it just cut the tyre, so it was kind of in the mix with it, and then just the last three-quarters of a lap just had no grip at all.
That's a shame. Do you think you may be cutting the curb a little bit too much, or is it normal cutting?
Well, I mean, I've been taking as much as you can, really, so it was nothing different, but maybe the angle was a slightly harder hit. Yeah, and it cut the tyre, so it was really unfortunate, because up until then I think it was a good race. But yeah, hopefully Pascal can go and win now and keep us in it.
Cool. Good luck, thank you.
Cheers.
Well, it is 1-1, so for a place in the quarters, it is now down to Pascal Verlaine for the Young Stars versus Romain Grosjean for, I'm going to say the Old Stars, aren't I? My mistake. The All Stars. It's so close as well. All Old Stars. Yeah, whatever.
I tell you what, though, this will be an interesting one, because Verlaine's boss is Toto Wolff.
Yes.
He's desperate to try and get an F1 seat.
Yes.
This would be a good way of trying to impress. Look at me, I'm in a Radical and I can drive even this.
Yeah.
Boss.
Absolutely. So one apiece. This is the decider then for a place against Team England 1 in the fourth of our quarterfinals.
It's all or nothing.
What's it or bust? Here we go. German flag on the back of Pascal Verlaine's car. I have to say, I couldn't tell you what the Mauritian flag looks like. I'm imagining something with pale blue as a background, but I might be entirely mistaken.
I think it's got a palm tree on it.
I wouldn't be at all surprised. Romain Grosjean, of course, with the Tricolore of France in the white Radical SR3, and look how close he is to the wall. And it's like any other competition these guys drive in. It's every single iota of space you can use. And that's why Jolien was clattering the curbs, because you have to. It's dry and you can. And at the line, after the first lap, Grosjean 6/10 down. Verlaine is flying. Romain Grosjean really needs something special now, Jenny.
Yeah, absolutely. As they come round, just half a lap or one rotation to go, we will have a decider. So Grosjean is definitely down at this point. Verlaine absolutely flying out there as he comes round to the final turn at this Olympic Park.
And he is going to get to the line first, surely. Through he goes, and Romain Grosjean is defeated by nearly a second. Stunning driving again from Pascal Verlaine. You may not know his name, but you will by the end of this evening. The young stars go through.
So Jolien Palmer alongside Pascal Verlaine will go through, and they have managed to defeat Romain Grosjean and the all-star team with Chris Hoy.
And by the way, they choose the driver that goes into the decider by putting the winner of each of the two previous heats in. And look how close he was to a yellow card, but he gets away with no penalties.
Well, he was beaten tonight by England's Jason Plato. We can hear now from the Williams F1 driver Felipe Massa, who's with Ted Kravitz.
Well, certainly look like you enjoy yourself, but what was that? That Merc's a heavy thing. Powerful though out there.
Yeah, for sure it was not so easy. I mean, to get two very professional touring cars straight away in the touring car. So, but I'm happy anyway. It was we tried everything we could, and I hope the next one will be better than the start. The start was for sure not positive.
Is that a key thing round here, is that you've got rally drivers, you've got touring drivers, car drivers, they race a different way. They're twisting it and slipping it, and you can't do that in Formula One.
No, it's a little bit different compared to what we're doing, you know, but it was nice, it was fun, and I think it's always nice to try different cars and trying to be competitive. So for sure, it was very close, but they were better.
Okay, just finally, I need to ask you about tomorrow, the big kart race. I know you run your own huge kart race in Brazil at the end of every season. You're looking forward to that here, though, tomorrow?
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure it can be better and more competitive in the go-kart race and in this car, but we need to wait tomorrow. For sure, this freestyle or whatever you call, you know, to do before as a qualifier will be not easy, but we'll try to, you know, start as forward I can for the go-kart race.
Thanks very much, Felipe. Thank you.
Is the Dane Tom Christensen. Lopez using lots of curb already. Halfway round the first lap in this Team Americas versus Team Nordic quarterfinal. Tom Christensen watches from the wings as his, beg your pardon, is driving up against Jose Maria Lopez as their respective teammates watch the action, ready for their go. Lopez with the lead. No, Christensen with the lead at the line. Looked like Lopez had a good first lap. Lots of tyre squeal from the KTM crossbows.
And they're actually looking into the eyes of the other driver as they go down that straight, which is such an unusual thing for them to actually be able to do.
So it's at the end of each full rotation when you get back to your starting point that the gap counts, and Lopez with a huge slide. When the turbo comes in, it just keeps oversteering and oversteering and oversteering. And Tom Christensen takes a very comfortable win over the two-time World Touring Car Champion. I talked to Jose yesterday about it, and he said, I haven't driven a rear-wheel drive car for about 8 years. It's all been front-wheel drive. He said, it's so hard trying to unlearn everything I know.
Let's have a look then at exactly what happened with Lopez as he came around the corner. You can see him struggling and fighting with that car. Yep. And then it just loses it and into the Tech Pro barriers. Luckily, they collected him. In fairness, at that point in the circuit, it's Tech Pro barriers. On the other side, it's a very large concrete barrier. And if it had gone into that, I think we would have seen significantly more damage. But the marshals and stewards will come out, just reassess and put everything back together. Well, Tom Christensen goes off and has a little celebratory pause of the action. Look at the focus in those eyes of Lopez.
Yep. Christensen, the Nations Cup Team Nordic with Petter Solberg last year. They're our defending champions. They have a win against Team Americas. Last time Jose Maria Lopez drove a rear-wheel drive car was testing for Renault Formula One in 2006. 9 long years ago. So the second of our Nordic drivers then, our reigning Nations Cup champions, Petter Solberg from Norway, the only man to have won World Rally and World Rally Cross Championship titles.
And he will be up against Ryan Hunter-Reay, the 2014 Indy 500 winner, his third race of champions and one of the nicest guys in the paddock. He's wearing a yellow race suit, so that's how you can tell him out, because he stands out like a banana.
Yep, and he will be in the red and black NASCAR. So these 650 horsepower NASCAR stockers.
They are heavy beasts as well, those NASCARs. I think they're the heaviest car we've got out here.
Yes, and not quite the best power to weight ratio. 371 brake horsepower per tonne. 0 to 60, 3.2 seconds. So the twin turbo 4-litre V8 in the Mercedes producing 510 horsepower. This produces 450. Normally aspirated 5.7 V8 on carburetors. Power! Away they go.
Could you be more excited?
Oh, I could be, but then I wouldn't be up here.
Better.
I'd be down there.
Oh, this is going to be close. Look at them coming through the first split. This is just the half. Solberg is down at the moment.
Nelson Piquet famously compared Formula 1 in Monaco to like trying to race bicycles around your front room. I think this must feel very much the same. These things are not built for tight turns. And at the line, it is the white car of Petter Solberg that goes through in front. Hunter Ray must win to keep Team Americas in the frame. Otherwise, our reigning Nations Cup champions will canter on into the semi-finals.
Solberg is barely in control of it. He has spun. He's ended up in the pit. So that means, I think, by default, that Hunter Ray may well go through, even though he was down, because at the moment, Solberg is jammed, a little bit like Greg Rutherford, in the sandpit.
Yeah.
And along comes Hunter Ray. Didn't quite realise what had happened. Are we allowed overtaking in this game?
Oh, yes. No yellow flag. So Hunter Ray finishes and now chases Solberg to the line, because why not? Oh, no, Solberg just bails out and he realises that the jig was up 1-1. So...
this is going to be good to watch back. Have a look at this. So Solberg comes round and he thought he was in control, but the back swings out like a pendulum.
Yeah. That's a classic tank slapper. It went left when it needed to be going right.
Look at that.
Jason Plato, Tom Onslow, Cole watching. There's where it steps out on him, and now he's got to try and get it to change direction, and it does. It just doesn't stop changing direction quite as much as his four-wheel drive, four-wheel steer rallycross car might have.
So coming out next will be Tom Christensen against Ryan Hunter-Ray in the Ariel Atom Cup. Look at that. Jenson Button loving it.
Look at the sympathy. The
No
empathy
sympathy.
oh, bless him. Yeah.
That's drivers for you.
Certainly not laughing at your rival's mistakes. Yeah. I believe the word for that is Schadenfreude. Well, let's get down and hear from Felipe Massa about his experience. He's with Azifani.
Felipe, such a shame, just the one lap for you, but it's great for you to be back after such a long absence.
Yeah, very shame to start like this. So I really hope tomorrow will be better. And it was not easy to start straight away with the two very good touring car drivers in the like a road car. You know, it was not so easy, but we tried everything we could. Tomorrow we try better.
How did you find the Mercedes?
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice, but for sure no experience at all with the track, with the car and anything. But it was good fun, and it's amazing the organization of the event. So thank you very much for inviting me, and I will push even harder tomorrow.
We're back at a stadium again this year. How nice is it to be in this sort of format?
I think it's very nice. I mean, the place is amazing. I think that people can see everything in a proper way. So the organization is really well. I mean, what they're doing, I mean, making the asphalt in the middle of the stadium is amazing. So, yeah, I think it's really nice.
Thanks a lot, Felipe.
Thanks.
So Felipe Massa there, the Williams driver with his son Filipino. And little Felipe has been going around the F1 world with his dad all this season. So let's go down to the pit lane again.
Petter, that was all going so well. You were ahead. No need to push. What happened?
You know, a small mistake and that's it. Very boring like that, you know, because I like the car. It's good fun. And maybe I had a little bit too much fun when I drove it, but still a long way to go. But we will just still have a chance.
Yeah, so you're defending Nations Cup champions, and of course you're defending your World Rallycross title next week in Argentina. So it's all competition for you.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, this is tough guys here, and we have to fight hard. And but you have to stay away from mistakes. But sorry.
Never mind.
Thanks.
Wonder what the Norwegian for "you can't win them all" is. Well, it's in there somewhere, and I imagine that his passenger heard at least some of that.
It's amazing, though. That's what makes Race of Champions so special, doesn't it? Because even though these guys are going on to compete wherever it may be in the world next weekend, maybe they've got titles up for grabs, they still want to come here, they still want to have fun, and they still want to share the Race of Champions experience with all of the other drivers here in London at the Olympic Park. Fantastic.
Deciding action in London's Olympic Park. Mr. Le Mans, Tom Christensen, in the background, incidentally, with the dark hair, son of another Mr. Le Mans. Tom Christensen, the most winning Le Mans driver, of course, and In a number of those wins, his teammate was Emanuele Pirro, and Emanuele's son is down there helping the drivers in and out of the cars. Hey, Chris. So Tom Kristensen for Team Nordic versus Ryan Hunter-Reay. They both won their respective first races, and the Indy 500 champion from last year will go out to try and take Team Americas through into the semi-final stage. So, Team Americas, Ryan Hunter-Reay, or the defending champions, Jenny Gao. It's go hard or go home now. There's no need to keep anything tied back for Tom Kristensen. He's just got to give it everything. He's got to win.
As Felipe Massa would say, go hard or go to the bar.
Yeah,
because he is in the driver's lounge at the moment with his family, having a fantastic time. I know he'd like to be down there competing with Team Brazil, but he will have to watch as Team Nordic and Team Americas come out onto the track.
I'm sure they'll settle for an early night and a massage.
Actually, some of them have bought their masseurs. I wanted to try. They weren't giving it.
No, their masseurs are too busy going for the order. So Ryan Hunter-Reay warming the tyres, warming the brakes. And actually, the most terrifying bit of being a passenger is before you get to the line here. When you're under the stadium and they set off like a bat out of hell, you think, oh, we're never going to make it to the track. But these guys are desperate to get temperature into the brakes and into the tyres. Track temperature is hovering around zero. It's maybe 1 or 2 degrees. Air temperature is definitely in single digits. And these medium compound Michelin tyres, Michelin bringing about 400 tyres this weekend, of which hopefully we'll use around 200. Need that temperature. Sliding is great, but sideways is not forward. So who's alongside him with the Ryan Hunter-Reay helmet? Oh, that is the split screen. Oh, that was his passenger. See, you can fool me all the time.
Snazzy glasses from Kristensen, representing Team Nordic tonight with anything that you could really throw out in those glasses, really.
Are they his readers, do you think, or his drivers?
Ski goggles.
No, I don't know. So Kristensen halfway around his first lap. Ryan Hunter-Reay having to take a second bite of the cherry at getting the car turned in. There, a little bit of oversteer, but these aerial atoms are ultra light and probably the best suited car here, apart from the ROC buggies, to this track.
This is close. There is just 15 hundredths within this.
And Hunter-Reay's given that away. Look at that. Left, right, left, right, left, right. Working hard on the steering, the throttle and the brakes.
He is trying to bring this back for Team Americas, though.
You can hear the car bouncing off the limiter as well. So we're on board with Ryan Hunter-Reay, but Petter Solberg, Tom Kristensen looks as though he's got a slight advantage. It's going to be close at the line. 1500s last time. Oh, how close was that?
That was so close.
Kristensen wins by 1/10 of a second. Ryan Hunter-Reay found 500ths of a second on him. And Tom's looking at the big scoreboard going, no, 1/10. Now, you think you can judge that as a driver? Oh. I don't think you can. Wow, that was close.
So close. I do not know where Hunter-Reay managed to find that time. He was like a whippet round there for the second half of that race.
Fantastic effort from Ryan Hunter-Reay, but the reigning champions go through into the semi-finals. Team Nordic will face the winners of our next 2 matches.
It's time to update the board.
Oh.
Nordic is going in.
So Nordic are our first semi-finalists, and they will face either Team Australia or 6-time winners Team Germany.
They do have a new driver, though, with them this weekend in Nico Hulkenberg, a man who is obviously quite new to racing, just won Le Mans this year. Yep. So nothing to worry about there alongside Sebastian Vettel.
Well, listen, he had one other weekend in between Grand Prix where he went racing, and that turned out all right. I wonder if that's an omen, because, of course, next week he'll be racing Formula 1 again, back to the day job.
I hope they take some of the technique they learned from these buggies across and through.
I want to see them clutch kicking their cars around the circuit. That will be excellent. Daniel Ricciardo for Team Australia, the man with the most convincing Movember tash you have seen, versus Sebastian Vettel, 6-time winner and four-time world champion.
And they are off.
In the orange and black, Daniel Ricciardo for Team Australia, the first of our second quarter-final heats. And against him, six-time Nations Cup champion for Team Germany, Sebastian Vettel. So the KTM crossbow is the weapon of choice. Ricciardo with the orange highlights. Vettel in the all-black mean machine. Half a lap away. Now when they get to the line, this time, Vettel is going to be in front, I think, but not
I don't know,
much.
it's too close to call.
He is in front by a fraction. Look at that, 0.0024. 24 thousandths of a second between them. Daniel Ricciardo, the fastest man on the Top Gear track, don't forget.
This is going to be very close to call as they come through for the final rotation. Remember, 2 laps here at the Olympic Park. Who is going to get this? Is it going to be Germany? Is it going to be Australia?
The slightest slide is going to give this away. Ricciardo could carry the speed to the line, but too much speed. And it is Vettel who claims the win. Ricciardo, power oversteer out of the final corner, cost him that half a second. And Vettel kept it neat and tidy. It's not how much you drive, it's how little. And Sebastian Vettel, the king of Nations Cup racing, does it again.
Look, the signatory finger that goes up. Do you know why he puts that finger up? I learnt this the other day.
Because it's more polite than 2.
No, it's because when he injured his finger in one of his races, and so he bandaged it up, and the next day all of his mechanics and engineers came with a bandage around their finger, and so that is why, rumour has it, he puts his finger up to celebrate.
Well, you would think he would have a glove with a white tip on the end or something in. So, anyway. So, for Australia, a proper legend. I don't care what sport you follow, you know the name Mick Doohan. Multiple 500cc moto, well, in these days MotoGP, but in his days, world road racing motorcycle champion. An all-round good guy.
And in comes Nico Hülkenberg in the white and orange of the cars in the KTM.
The Radical SR3s. Now, they are a 2-seater car, but there's not a lot of arm and elbow room when you've got a passenger in these. So Nico Hülkenberg, outside lane. Mick Doohan with the Southern Cross on his flag on the inside lane.
Mick Doohan took a massive shunt yesterday in practice, so keep an eye out for him in this race.
Here the revs rise in his Radicals. Away they go. You're looking closest to you at Nico Hülkenberg, our Le Mans winner. Mick Doohan has got to win this. They were talking in the press conference yesterday. He was asked about the fact that the Aussies came over here and got spanked last summer in the cricket, and then came over and beat England very handsomely in the Rugby World Cup. Would this be the decider in favour of Team Australia?
This is close.
And Doohan is just fractionally behind, but only fractionally. Doohan said Daniel Ricciardo can do it. The problem is he's got to carry an old Aussie motorbike racer with him.
Oldest man in the field, but we won't mention that, will we, with Mick Doohan?
No. He's been practising at home on Queensland's Gold Coast with buggies on a dirt track. So yesterday's wet conditions were very different. Ooh, a little bit of understeer from Hülkenberg. Has to fight it hard, but here we go to the line. Hülkenberg was in front and takes victory over Doohan. So Australia have victory, big puns. Germany have victory 2-0 over Australia.
Oh, and a hug and a squeeze from Daniel Ricciardo and Sebastian Vettel. Let's have a look at this, the replay.
Well, as well as winning races for Ferrari this season, Sebastian Vettel has sort of enlivened a lot of press conferences by gently winding up the Mercedes drivers, and in some cases not entirely gently. And clearly he was winding up Ricciardo there as well.
So it'll be Germany versus Nordic going into semi-final 1.
So multiple champions versus reigning champions. That's our first semi.
It looked like you had fun.
Yeah, it was very close. We were just wondering who was ahead on the first lap. I think, yeah, I was happy with my second one. Maybe Danny had a mistake, but it was very close.
Is it between F1 weekends? Is it good to come here and have some fun and race against the same faces?
It is actually. You know, it's my first year doing it, and I wanted to do it in the past, but it always clashes with my Australian summer. So it's really cool this weekend to be here. And yeah, I mean, right now we obviously Abu Dhabi's next weekend, but we're not thinking about that at all. It's just a nice way to switch off and enjoy some good camaraderie.
Give us an idea what it's like out there in the Olympic Stadium. You've done Race of Champions a lot. How different is it with this new format?
Yeah, I missed the bridge. I think the jumping bit was quite nice, but I think the format now that you start the opposite way is quite interesting. And hey, big boy.
He's making his way to dump his helmet at the moment.
Yeah, I think the track is actually good fun. So yeah, it's cold, but it's still good fun.
Thanks very much.
Now, it's funny because we used to sing Daniel smiling, but I tell you what, they were gritted teeth because he would not have liked losing to his old teammate then.
No.
No matter what the format.
No, definitely not. But again, that's what it's like. You know, you get Mick Doohan walking past and they're all grabbing each other and hugging each other, and it's a great environment for them to be in. Daniel was absolutely right. They're not thinking of next weekend. They're just having fun today. I
mean, you say switch off, but they're competitive creatures. They're going to be fighting it out to the last, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, of course they are. And that's all part and parcel of being a racing driver or a motorcycle racer or whatever it may be, a sportsman. So it's great because I think, you know, the racing itself, we can see sometimes how close that racing can be. And if you make that little mistake, there's quite a big difference.
Daniel definitely had a lead on him at the start and then a little slip-up, as you say. OK, let's remind ourselves of the state of play then. We've got confirmation of our first semi-final between Nordic and Germany. And, of course, the first round that you saw was just for a place in the quarters, which is going to be between England and the Young Stars. England beating Brazil 2-0. You're not going to hear that very often, I'm sure. But they're up against the Young Stars next. And how do you see that one going, Johnny?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But the Young Stars, you'd sort of think they'd have a bit of a chance, I hope.
Are you surprised that Jason Plato beat Felipe Massa?
Not really, no. He's a tin-top driver, has been for years and years and years and years and years and years. So, for him, I think it's not surprising to get into one of these things. No problem. OK, well, a member of the All-Stars team, so Chris Hoy, took an early bath and Ted caught up with him. Not actually in the bath.
Just explain, if you can, to people who wonder how you can go from excelling in one discipline to, well, also excelling in now motorsport. You're sort of chosen to
I've gone from excelling to being reasonable. You know, I've got to a level where I can enjoy. I mean, the great thing about motorsport, I think, is that you can compete as an amateur with the very best in the world. You know, you can go to Le Mans, hopefully, and compete as an amateur gentleman driver with guys like Tom Christensen, Alan McNish, amazing drivers, legends of the sport. And I can't think of any other sport that you could compete on the day against the very best in the same venue at the same time. You know, I was at the test day at Le Mans this year in an LMP3 car with Janetta Nissan, and I was on the track with Mark Webber, Nico Hülkenberg, you know, guys like that, driving past in the Porsches and the Audis and the Toyotas. And it's, you know, you've got to pinch yourself, and in some ways it's hard to, the first couple of laps, all I was doing was going, oh my God, I'm on the Mulsanne Straight, oh my God, this is Indianapolis, this is the Porsche curves. And then I got to sort of snap out of it and say, you're in a race car, you're on a racetrack, this isn't mucking about, you're not a tourist, you know, focus. But what an experience, yeah.
Well, ever the modest man, but how impressed are you about his reinvention? I mean, you know, he's got incredible sporting prowess in cycling, and yet he's proving it with a different type of power.
Yeah, loves it. Absolutely loves it. Yeah, and I think it's something that it's great that you can do an intense sport like cycling for many, many years and have the success that he has, and then come into something completely alien to you. But because you enjoy it and love it so much, you just actually sort of learn and sort of just get better and better. And that's exactly what Chris did. You know, when he was racing there, he didn't lose by much. It wasn't seconds down the road. No. It's only just over a second.
Do you know that his thighs are wider than the average waist?
There you go. So take those thighs away, he would have actually probably won with the weight that he's got in there.
OK, let's cross over to Ted, who is with Nico Hülkenberg.
Which car would you rather be in?
I really like the RX 150 buggies, I have to say. You know, I've found those so fun. They're like a little, I don't know, like a little go-kart, so dynamic, so fun, and they just put a big smile on my face.
Yeah, light thing, Honda 5-blade engine.
Yeah, it's just cool, you know, the shift here, and I mean, you don't really shift, but the thing is so active and you have to work it, and it's just great.
Good. All right, enjoy. Good luck. Thanks.
He's another one that's had a strong F1 season, and of course that Le Mans win, that gave him And you sort of found status in the paddock, didn't it, this year?
Yeah, it did. And Le Mans does that sometimes. It's something I was able to do when I was racing in the early 90s.
You managed to get yourself back
into
that.
Yes, yeah. Did I win it? I did win it, actually, as well that year. So, but no, it's great, because for him, you know, he was trying to sort of make that sort of next step up. It hasn't quite happened for him, but he's in a very good team for the future. And, of course, Le Mans, Porsche, it was brilliant for him to get that result, but he won't be doing it next year.
OK, brilliant. Thanks, Johnny. Well, let's head to a break now, and when we come back, we'll find out who's in the second set of semi-finals.